Welcome into episode 533 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. Bridget and Scott, there's no Bruins games to speak of. We are at our first episode of the Olympic break officially. We do have some Beanpot conversation. We have some Olympic conversation, and we do have some Bruins conversations. And then next episode, there will be a mailbag, so please submit all your questions for that as well, which will be on Thursday. Bridget and Scott, welcome to the Olympic break. Finally, I know it's for you, Scotty.
Yeah, it's like I feel like I'm like just kind of getting past just extremely chaotic time with traveling down to Florida for those
Miami
games.
Must have been terrible.
Well, but like the problem is I had to work so much still because like the Patriots are in the Super Bowl, so it really wasn't a vacation. Like I took some time. I took some time like Friday afternoon to actually relax. But like that was kind of it. So yeah, it was a trip to Florida, but without really any beach time.
That I saw.
Wasn't really warm. It wasn't really warm enough to hang out on the beach, anyways. But yeah, then getting back Saturday was a mess because of the weather. And my flight wasn't delayed, but the landing was. We just like flew around Boston for like an extra hour and 45 minutes because Logan was down to one runway. So that was interesting. Like I'm like, I'd pull up like the screen, and our plane just kept like literally circling around Boston, circling around, and then finally landed. I gotta tell you, landing in a snowstorm, not particularly fun. A little nerve wracking. Yeah. So and then Sunday was Super Bowl. So I'm like, and then last night was the Beanpot final. So I'm definitely not caught up on sleep yet, but I am looking forward to a little bit of a break as far as at least not going to as many games and not having as many late nights.
How is that? What's the thing called that's between the plane and the terminal? What's that contraption called? Is that just the terminal? You know what I'm talking about, like the rampway that you walk on.
Yeah. Talking about it's either 100 degrees or 0 degrees.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, did you notice the immediate freezing temps when you got? Were you not in Florida long enough to really like adapt to their temperatures?
No, it hits you right away. Like
ton of bricks.
Yeah, it's like as soon as you get to like the front of the plane and turn to walk out, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. And you have like that little area where it connects to the plane, and it's like that like accordion looking thing that connects it, and you just feel everything. It's oh boy, welcome back to Boston.
Yeah. Well, did you at least get your tan on a little bit?
No, not really. Because here's the thing: if I tried to tan, I would just burn. If I'm gonna tan, it's gonna be like a slow build going into the summer. So like a week's just not enough time. I would have just gotten burned.
I'm of the opinion that even if it's higher than 35 degrees, that and there's no wind, like I would attempt to tan. Like I don't really care how cold it is, especially at this point in the winter. I feel like I'm unfazed outside now, which is a problem. I'm just like walking around and I just don't feel cold, and I'm like, what happened? I like beginning of like, or like the first like few cold days of the year, I'm always just like, I hate my life. Like I'm miserable. And now it's like 15 degrees out. I'm just walking like, yeah, it's another day.
I will
35 degrees and the sun's out, I would be like in a bikini.
The one thing I will say is this was actually, temperatures aside, like for me, this is a good time to be in Florida because there were no crowds anywhere. Like I think the combination of the temperature and it's not, it wasn't a major holiday. It wasn't a school vacation week. So like when I did go for walks along the beach, it was like no one out there, restaurants, bars, not crowded at all. So it was actually I was like, that's good because one of my least favorite things about Florida is Florida crowds. So avoiding that was
Didn't you post a picture online about traffic or something?
Oh, so that was in Fort Lauderdale. That was drawbridge traffic. So Fort Lauderdale has they call it like the Venice of America. It's just like a bunch of canals and interlocking waterways. So there's drawbridges all over the place. And yeah, if you get stuck at a drawbridge, like you're just sitting there for 15 minutes.
Yeah, that sucks. That's no fun. Yeah, but Bridget, to your point about like bikini weather when it's 35 degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't be wearing a bikini, but I will say when I look at the temps this week and I'm seeing like highs of 37, 38, 41. Oh my God, you kidding me? It's like it feels like it's spring.
It was 35 and sunny like 2 days ago, and I stood in my yard. Like I just stood there and let the sun hit my face. Like I felt like crazy. I felt like a crazy person, but that was enough to make me happy.
We need a win as a region. This, and you guys can tell me if you feel differently, and feel free to comment. I can't recall a winter that's been this cold.
Yeah.
And maybe way back when, I just don't remember, but certainly in the last 15, 20 years, I can't recall consistent. It's been about a month straight, I would say, of and listen, we all grew up in New England. We know the score. I'm not like I'm used to a New England winter, but normally I don't think we're getting below freezing temps. Forget the snowstorm that we had, but below freezing temps for a month straight. It's a little bit extreme so far. So this region needs a win, probably as bad as BU needed to win last night. Sorry, Scott, but it's we all need something. We need like a week of like 40 degrees. Just give it to us.
Yeah, we need to melt the snow. That's the thing. Like the parking situation in Boston, not good right now. So snow needs to melt.
Yeah.
But we don't need to talk about the weather anymore. We will get to the BU BC Beanpot Championship game too. But I'll start with my opening shift because it's Bruins / Olympics because it's about a Bruins player who is now not able to play in the Olympics. That's Pavel Zacha. His injury, this is as much of an update as we've got, is that he's being replaced on the Czech Olympic team, which is a huge loss for the Czech Republic because he's one of their best players. He's being replaced by somebody that plays professionally in the Czech Republic. So obviously, you're having to replace an NHL guy with a guy that's in a lesser league. That's not going to be good for them. But for what it means for the Bruins is he may be out for longer than the Olympic break. So by all accounts, it seems like Elias Lindholm will participate at some point. He hasn't been ruled out or replaced. So
he's actually been practicing. So it seems like he's good to go.
Yeah, so it looks like he's ready and good for him that he's going to be able to participate. I do feel really bad for Zacha, just on a personal level. He's a good guy, works hard, should be there. Obviously, it's sometimes a once in a lifetime experience to get to go to the Olympics, especially with the way that the NHL hasn't sent players for the past few times. So feel bad for him and wonder what the timeline is. Because we don't have an update, and it's not like when they're around here and every day after practice or a game, you ask Marco Sturm if there's an update. There's none of that to be had. So I'm not sure when we'll get the next round of information about him, but it also brings to mind, what does this mean for Matt Patra? And I have some thoughts on him as well, because he got into a fight the other day. That didn't go so well, if you can imagine that. But yeah, like, does this mean that Matt Patra, who was there for the last few games before the break, comes right back up after? And that's also, a different role than he was necessarily playing these last few games that he was up. But anyway, we'll get more into that and some other Olympic stuff, including Charlie McAvoy. I know people are still upset and understandably about there not being supplemental discipline from the check he took in the face during the Panthers game from Vilmanis, and I was shocked they didn't give him supplemental discipline despite all the comments that were on our tweets about it, like, oh, it's Florida, they're not gonna, the NHL, you don't know the NHL apparently because they don't do supplemental discipline for this. And then you see his face, and his face is swollen out again, and you feel bad for him. And he did talk about it. So we'll talk about McAvoy and his status as well.
Yeah, well, it's the Panther safety department.
Yeah.
So
Somebody tweeted that at me, and it turned out to be true.
So definitely a lot to get into there, Bridget. And yeah, the Zacha stuff is pretty pertinent to the Bruins as well. We don't know what the injury is, so it's tough to really comment on timeline. But speaking of the Bruins and the Olympics, I'll tie it all together as well. Don Sweeney is obviously over in Milano Cortina GMing Team Canada. But should he feel vindicated in his GMing of the Bruins over the last, let's call it, calendar year? We all know that last year was a bad year for the Bruins, and they rightfully recognized that they had to sell at the deadline. I think from that moment on, even though they fell to the 5th worst record in the league after that, which, if we're all being honest here, was by design to probably, put yourself in a position to draft as high as possible. It's the nature of selling the way that they did. Nobody would admit that, but it's true. So from that moment on, I just think that Sweeney has been heavily criticized, myself included at times, more specifically regarding free agency over the summer and how that was handled. And I have to be honest, I feel like you can look at pretty much every move he's made, whether it's a draft, a trade, a free agent signing, and in a vacuum this season, they have all panned out positively for the club. And if I'm him, I think you're feeling pretty vindicated. And, I can give a few examples, but the Brandon Carlo trade, I mean, Fraser Minton is a handful of rookies probably in the conversation for the Calder. He's not a favorite, but if he has a strong final 25 and others ahead of him maybe flounder a bit, he's got a bit of a case there. You get Minton and a 26 first for Carlo. Was there also a second rounder involved there too for Boston, or no?
It was a 4th, I think. It was the
Okay,
pick they used on Fast Check Blenar.
Right. Who's an exciting prospect, right? So the Charlie Coyle trade, you bring in Middlestad, okay, that's fine, but then you obviously bring in Will Zellers, and a second there too, or was it just Zellers and Middlestad?
Yeah, I believe that was a second. I think that was Will Moore, right?
Yes, right. So that's a great trade. Justin Brazeau, you ship him out, and you bring back Lauko and Husnudinov, and Brazeau's had a nice little season over in Pittsburgh, but I think we all love Husnudinov's youth and upside.
No,
so
we've never talked about that guy.
Listen. I'm just saying. So that's the trade deadline stuff, right? And even Trent Frederick, he kind of flipped him indirectly for Yoki Haru. But regardless,
and that's just the you're talking about the guys that are already making impacts, and we're about to talk about the Beanpot and James Hagens, who is also in a way a result of the deadline sell because you tanked and you ended up with a good player. And we'll talk about his season and Letourneau's season as well.
I mean, even Letourneau is a pick that was obviously the year prior that was heavily criticized and is turning out to look really good. Yeah. But then this past summer, you can go to the Victor Arvidsson trade. I was palms to the sky. I was like, this doesn't really make much sense to me. Tanner Jeannot is on pace for 30 points this year, his second best, production of his career. Arvidsson's on pace for 40 something. You bring in, you sign Alex Steeves. Okay. Is it that hard to look at a, highly productive AHL player and then say maybe he could be something? Okay. Maybe not the boldest of takes, but you still did it. And he was waived after training camp. But he's on pace for, he's at like 0.45 points per game right now. Jonathan Aspero, nobody saw him coming. He leads your team in plus minus. So, it's just, I just think it's an appropriate time right now with the Olympic break here and a bit of a pause in the Bruins season to look back at Sweeney's last calendar year and say, you know what? The guy's polarizing. I get it. We all get it. If you're a GM for a long enough time anywhere, you're going to have your good moves and your bad moves. I think he's pressed a lot of right buttons. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, and that Toronto pick for Carlo right now would be the 13th overall pick, which is a good pick, right? Because they haven't had a good season. So anything you can get top 15 is a good pick. And I mean, you might want to push it a little bit further. So if it's a top 10 pick, that'd be wonderful. And I did want to mention this at some point. We'll talk about it, not right now. During the episode, there were some Toronto trade rumors that they will be sellers, or they've decided to be sellers. So what does that mean for that pick? So it does affect the Bruins for a few reasons.
Also, Scott, what were the details on the Florida Seth Jones thing? Is that there's implications there too?
Yeah. So a few things. So first off, just to correct myself on the second round picks from this past draft. So Will Moore was from the Frederick trade. That was the second round pick they got from Edmonton. The second round pick from Colorado that they got was Liam Pettersson. They used on the defenseman. Yeah, so this came out late last week from Frank Saravalli that apparently like people just didn't know that the pick that Florida sent to Chicago in the Seth Jones trade last year was top 10 protected, which just like wasn't reported at the time. So the reason that matters for the Bruins is obviously Florida is having a rough season, is out of playoff position, and right now is in the 10th spot in the draft. They would have the 10th best odds. So if they end up with the top 10 pick this year, they get to keep it. That would then push the first round pick that they sent to Chicago back a year to 2027, which would then push the first round pick that the Bruins get from Florida in the Brad Marchand trade back to 2028. So previously, I think we all thought that the only way that the Marchand pick would get pushed to 2028 was if the Panthers had a top 10 pick in 2027. We knew that pick was top 10 protected. That was reported at the time. But we did not know that Florida had also top 10 protected that Seth Jones pick. So there is now another way that the pick that the Bruins get from Marchand could potentially be pushed to 2028.
And if they do finish 10th, we obviously won't know until the week of the draft where that ends up being. If they do finish 10th, there's probably a decent chance it falls at least to 11th, just because of the odds and stuff. But all it takes is for one person. Well, not necessarily, but in any event.
We'll know. Yeah, we'll know at the lottery, which that's usually like a month out or so.
Is that what it is? Okay, I thought it may have been week of, but yeah, maybe it's a month before. Okay. Yeah. So we'll get to that. I mean, I guess the question spinning from my opening shift that we can get to later is, okay, so does that build any trust in Bruins fans and us in terms of how Don Sweeney will handle this year's trade deadline? Because it really is kind of, there's a lot of different ways that it can go. So I guess that's something that we can answer as we go further. But Scott, let's get to your opening shift.
Well, much to my chagrin, Boston College won the Beanpot Monday night. Been a rough 2 nights. Patriots lose the Super Bowl. BU loses the Beanpot final, but some Bruins prospects stepped up big time for BC. James Hagens was named tournament MVP. He had 5 points in the 2 games, including 2 assists in the championship. Really could have been any number of Eagles that could have won MVP.
Yeah.
Andre Gasso had 2 goals in the championship game. Bruins 7th round pick from 2021, senior captain for the Eagles. He had, I think, 4 points in the tournament because he had 2 assists in the semis. Dean Letourneau, Bruins 2024 first round pick, scores a goal to get on the board late in the championship game. Nice finish in front. Made it 5-2 at the time. But was involved in 2 other goals that he didn't get points on. He had a nice forecheck to help win possession before, I think that was BC's second goal, and then had a good screen on the power play on BC's third goal. So, he also had a couple points in the semifinals. BC's goalie, Luca Cloutier, was really good. So, Lucas Gustafsson, their other co-captain with Gasso, defenseman, had 3 points in the championship. So, a lot of guys racking up points. It was a 6-2 BC final.
Ryan Conley had 4 assists.
I think they took one away. I think it ended up being 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was really good.
Before that, yeah.
So it ended up being BC's first Beanpot title in 10 years, which just sounds really surprising when you hear it, because it was tied, or it was their third longest drought. There's been twice before that they went 11 years between winning. But yeah, like they had kind of dominated the Beanpot for the decade prior to this drought. And it was really a monkey off their back for the program. Like it's crazy hearing, this was Greg Brown's first time winning the Beanpot as head coach, which is crazy considering all the success he's had since taking over from Jerry York. The previous 2 years, BC went into the Beanpot as favorites and lost to BU 2 years ago in the opening round. That was the year, BC was really dominant with the Will Smith, Ryan Leonard, Gabe Perreault line, Cutter Gauthier in that team. That was the only game they lost between mid-January and the national championship game was to BU in the first round of the Beanpot. And then last year, BC, like 2 weeks before the Beanpot, swept BU in a weekend series. And then they meet in the Beanpot final and BU wins 4-1. So BC was again number one in the country at that time. So neither team has been as strong this year, but BC is as of now at least in an NCAA tournament position. They moved up to 12th in the NPI, which is the pairwise replacement that's used to determine the NCAA tournament field. BU has fallen all the way to 29th and is almost certainly going to need to win the Hockey East tournament to make NCAAs. They do not really have any chance of getting an at-large bid at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's not possible at this point. But yeah, I mean, I've been thoroughly impressed with just the impact. Obviously, when you have so many prospects from one organization on your team, it's easy to spot the impact. But Dean Letourneau has had such an incredible season, incredible turnaround. So that pick looks better, like you were starting to mention, Brian. It looks better than it did last year, where he had no goals, 3 points total. In the Dean pot last year, everybody thought he was going to score, and he came really close, but he scored 2 this year. So good for him.
Did you coin that, by the way, and you're not getting credit for it? I feel
no,
like you were the first one to say it. No,
I didn't coin it. I jumped on the trend early, though.
Okay.
I was early on that wave, but
I remember you saying something like Barstool BC or something like.
No, it's something I had posted because I had first. So this is actually, I normally go to the Beanpot as a fan, and I'll sit first row and I'll have a nice IPA and enjoy the game. So I had first row seats last year. And I took a video and I literally just said something like, got good seats for the Dean pot, and that was it.
Okay, so I thought that was I wasn't sure if that was the first time it was coined, but you're saying that you got that from somewhere before. Okay.
Yeah, well, because I'm friends with some people that work at BC who are like among BC, it was like starting to be what it was called. So
okay.
But yeah, no, it was the Dean pot this year was better for him than last year. Was better for BC than last year. They really needed that win too. But if we want to start there and just not talk about like the college hockey aspect of it, but talk about the like future impact for the Bruins of it. Dean Letourneau, I've been watching him and thinking about fit, right? Like once he comes to Boston, what's he going to be able to do there? Like, where is he going to play? What roles could he have? How could he use his size, because he's kind of a unicorn in that way. And they don't have a forward that's that size. They don't have a center that's that size. Really only like Tage Thompson is that size kind of. But so he is so good net front because it's unfair. I mean, he doesn't really even have to try. He's just massive. And I think I noticed it even more in the game against BU because Mikhail Yegorov is BU's tallest player, their goalie. And Dean still looked way bigger than him and was still able to take away so much of his vision that it's just so obvious. And when I asked Greg Brown about him last week, and actually even Hagens answered one of my questions about it last week about just how impossible it is for goalies to see by him. So like, could he be a power play guy in the future? Because that's where he's been most effective on the screens. A lot of times teams can't pick up everybody on the power play, and he's somebody that is hard to move as well. He's gotten stronger. So, on top of the crease, could Dean be a power play guy for the Bruins that even if he doesn't even score, he's an asset in that way. But he has been scoring on the power play too. Just saying, like, even if when he first started, it was just for that big body in front, like I could see that. I could see him doing that at the next level because he's just got a natural advantage. And he can tip pucks too. It's something he's been working on. Obviously, also important for a net front guy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, like that's going to be part of his role in the NHL. I think it has to be. But yeah, it feels like he's a player who still has like such a wide variance, like in the best way in terms of what he can become, because he is still so raw, right? It's like just last year we're talking about like, oh, he took way too big of a step in terms of the level that he, going from Canadian prep to NCAA hockey, like, really needed a step in between. And now just in his second year of BC, he's taken this massive step forward.
He leads them in goals.
Yeah, and it's like, if he goes back to BC for a third season, which I think he will, it's like, okay, what else is like, does he just keep going like on this upward trajectory, or does it level off at some point? Like, we just don't know. I think what's exciting is like him becoming a top 6 NHL forward is still like well within the range of outcomes. Whereas, at this time last year, you're probably thinking like, man, I just hope he's an NHLer at all. Like, I just hope he can play in the bottom 6. And maybe that's still where he ends up, but he has clearly pushed his ceiling higher with the step he's taken this year.
He's over a point per game average. He's second in Hockey East in goals with 16, behind Justin Poirier of Maine, who's cooled off recently. But like, he could finish Hockey East this year as the leading goal scorer in the conference.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely proved himself this year to be one of the better players in the conference. To your point, Bridget. So I think all things you guys said is true. I think power play could definitely be a net front presence in the future. But to Scott's point, who knows what he turns into still. But I think his floor has risen. I think we can all probably agree on that. Another question that I know people are asking, and hell, even myself, I'm curious about it, is James Hagens' potential positioning in the future. Obviously, he was thought of as a center, and people see his usage at BC as a winger, and wonder, okay, so is he not a center at the NHL level? To that, I would say, listen, personally, I don't know, but I would also say that he was used as a center at World Juniors for the U.S. national program. So sometimes it comes down to just how a coach views his roster, and is he electing for balance or this or that? Who really knows? So what I would say is, Greg Brown at BC and how he deploys James Hagens isn't necessarily how the Bruins would deploy James Hagens long-term. I think, Scott, I saw you say something last night about short-term deployment for Hagens when he makes the NHL, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, we've seen a lot of centers at the NHL level start off as wings just to get their feet wet. So, but it's a question people are asking.
I can answer the Greg Brown part and why he's done it. And also add that Letourneau has been a center most of the season. He's been centering the second line pretty consistently. I mean, I can't speak as much to like the first half, but having spoke to Greg Brown a few times in the second half, once they got Oscar Hemming, they just stacked a line, right? Like, Hagens plays left wing on that line. Gasso centers, and he's a captain, and he's really good too. He's been back from injury 8 games. He's had points in all but 1. And he's big, right? So Hemming is a big 17-year-old on the right wing. Gasso is a big center. Hagens plays the left wing. It's a stacked line. I texted my co-host of This Week in Hockey East, Eric Galanti, who's a BC broadcaster. I was like, this is the best line in Hockey East. PC has a really good line too, so we were kind of like discussing that, but he is probably on, in my opinion, the best line in Hockey East. It's stacked. And that's why he ends up on the left wing, because you want to have Gasso centering there. But yeah, like his usage has entirely been on the left wing in the second half and most of the first half. So that's what he's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, he had been moved to wing even before Gasso came back, though. Like, he was, because I went to some games in the first half where he was playing wing on a line with Jake Sondriel, who's had like a good season and is an important player for BC, even if he's not as well known like as an NHL prospect. Yeah, I think I guess like my feelings are kind of mixed on this, because I do think like if Hagens had just been completely dominating as a center, Greg Brown wouldn't have touched him. Like, he would have just left him there. So I know Greg Brown's always gonna spin it as a positive, and like there are positives to playing Hagens on the wing, but the fact remains, like, if he had been playing at the level everyone thought Hagens was going to be playing at the first couple months, there would have never been any reason to even think about moving him from center. His production has gone up since moving to the wing, so like it's worked out for him and it's worked out for BC. And yeah, they are a team that's pretty loaded at center, so there is an element of like, all right, well, which centers do we have who work best on the wing? And it turns out James Hagens is a pretty damn good winger. Like, he's been really good since he moved over. So in that sense, it's like it's encouraging. It gives Brian to what you were mentioning that I tweeted, like, because someone tweeted at me like, safe to say Hagens isn't going to be a center with the Bruins, given how much he's playing wing. And I was like, I wouldn't assume that yet. Like, you can't. We shouldn't be drawing any conclusions about where Hagens is going to play long term. But I do think like what's opened up is that now he can play wing when he comes into the NHL, whether that's the end of this season, early next year, whatever. And it is good for the Bruins to know that that's an option, especially like when we talk about Matt Poitras as a, just as a comparison here, where they tried him at wing in camp, didn't really like how it looked. Marco Sturmer's been very open about like, yeah, he's a center. I think he has to be in the middle of the ice. That's a player that the Bruins at least feel like they don't really have the option to move him to wing. They feel like he's a center. That's what he does, and he probably can't really play a different position. Hagens, I think you're seeing now, like, can play both. He does the things like a winger needs to do. He's pretty good on the boards. He can lead the rush. He obviously scans the ice extremely well. So he has that feel for like, where the open teammate is, when to slow it down, when to push the pace, and speed up. So there's a lot to like there in Hagens as a winger. I do still think like if you're a Bruins fan, you do want to probably see him more at center at some point again. Whether that happens this year with BC or not, like I think they're probably pretty happy with their lineup right now. So I don't think Greg Brown really has much of a reason to change it. But like World Juniors was encouraging in that sense. Again, Hagens didn't really dominate there, but he was the number one center and played in every situation and led, the whole forward group in ice time. So it's like he did still have kind of a showcase tournament to do that. And I thought he did it. I was higher on his World Junior play than some people. Like there was a wave of like Hagens disappointed at World Juniors that I just didn't really agree with. I think there's a big gap between he didn't dominate and he disappointed. I thought he was good. He probably wasn't quite great, but I thought he was good. So yeah, I think he can play both. You ideally, if you're the Bruins, I think you'd probably prefer that he was at center right now, but you don't hate the way that he's been playing on wing because he's looked good there.
Yeah. What's interesting too is it almost feels like the way that teams strategize now, especially in D zone coverage. don't get me wrong. Right wing is still right, left is still left, center is still center. But it seems that sometimes the lines get a little murky where guys are covering for each other a lot, and there's intentional switches. And then when it comes to faceoffs, like if Hagens was playing wing, I'm sure he would still take a ton of faceoffs on his strong side. And with the amount of times that guys get tossed in the circle, so it's almost like sometimes these centers who convert to wing, they still somehow kind of at times with the games are still playing like center in a weird dynamic. I know it's strange to say, but I feel like the game has changed a little bit. It used to be more traditional, like centers got the middle of the ice and the wingers are on their sides, and I don't know, you just see some differences now as the game's changing a little bit. Like sometimes you have I don't know, it's just something I've noticed. But yes, you ideally would still like him as a center because I want James Hagen's speed coming up to the middle of the ice more often than not. I think sometimes as a winger, again, sometimes wingers they'll swing, like they'll swing to their offside and get speed anyway. So it's not like you can't get speed as a winger. But when you have the jets that he does, you would like to see that player like have some more open ice themselves. But at the same time, he's theoretically he's the last guy in the offensive zone because he's the center. So his responsibilities are more important. So there's give and take there. It's just something to keep an eye on going forward. But you know what? Versatility is not a bad thing either way. For him to be able to play center and wing, what's wrong with that, right?
Mm-hmm. And if he comes in this season after finishing his his sophomore year, it gives you an option, right? It gives you more of an option to bring him in rather than wait and bring him in next year, or whatever his path is. This might speed up his transition to the NHL, just being able to do that. I also wanted to bring up too that obviously one of the knocks on him is his size. I don't think he plays like a small player, if that makes sense. Like he's strong enough that he doesn't get bumped off pucks. He can get inside position. He a lot of times too, and this isn't about his size, but he's just always in the right spot on the ice to like just tap in a rebound or like a backdoor feed, or he's good at that, and he's a good playmaker. And I don't think that the size issue is going to be too noticeable. I don't know, Scott, if you agree. I just don't see him getting pushed around that much. Now, the caveat is these are college hockey players, and the NHL is different. And the NHL has guys that are more mature, have had more time to get strong, are bigger. So like I guess that's an obvious thing that we'll have to keep a close eye on once the jump is made to the NHL. But I think at this level, where there are older guys, right? There's guys that are like 25 and 26 years old in the NCAA these days. The guys that have already played in the AHL or the ECHL are in this league now. So I think he holds up fine to that.
Yeah, I think that there's gonna be battles he loses just because he is smaller, but yeah, like he's smart. He's smart in terms of positioning, so he knows how to get away from guys and like spin off guys and position himself to protect the puck. So like that's all good. I think, and like he'll battle, he'll get in there. He's not really afraid of contact. I do think at times, and this happens with playmakers and guys who hold the puck a lot. I do think there's times he still settles a little bit for like perimeter play where you'd probably like to see him just go to the net and try to score, something a little greasier. But again, like guys who are skilled as he is and who see the ice as well as he does, that does tend to happen because they're looking for a lane, they're looking for a seam to open up, and like they'll hold and hold and hold. Where sometimes it's like you would just want to see him like attack and just be like, all right, take a quick scan. That perfect pass isn't there. Just try to like get downhill or use a defender as a screen and like make something happen that way. But that's admittedly like a little bit nitpicky. So, yeah, I mean, I would say I was going to look up here and I started to pull it up, but his, like he started the season just kind of hovering around a point per game and has really gone beyond. Like he's really heated up since, well, definitely since World Juniors, but maybe even starting a little bit before that. Like he's, he's up to 31 points in 24 games now. And
Yeah,
obviously
he's second in Hockey East in points per game, 1.3 points per game.
Yeah, and like so obviously, he missed a couple games while he was at World Juniors, but yeah, like now that's because last year he was exactly a point per game, 38 points in 38 games. And you wanted to see that go up. And like for a little bit this year, it really wasn't. And you were like, like, okay, is he? Yeah, he doesn't have as good of line mates, but like you still kind of wish that production went up. Well, now it is. Like now 31 points in 24 games. Like now you are getting separation from that point per game area where he's up to like 1.3 points per game now. And if he keeps playing at this rate, he can push that even higher.
Yeah, I mean, he should finish the season postseason concluded with in the 40s in points. And last year he was what, 32 and 32? Is that what it was? Something like that?
I can be at 38 and 38.
38. Okay, yeah. So I want to get to a few things before we run out of time today. Before we get to the Olympics, which I want to allocate a little bit more time to, let's just jump back to the Don Sweeney stuff real quick. 2 questions for you guys. A, should he feel vindicated based on trades, free agent signings, draft picks, basically how he's managed the last calendar year? Should he feel vindicated? And B, should that give Bruins Nation more confidence in him as this year's trade deadline approaches? Those 2 questions. How do you guys feel about those?
I think there's definitely been a pretty significant level of vindication. I don't want to go too far with it, but like clearly a lot of what he's done over the last calendar year has worked out as well as I think anyone could have reasonably expected. You covered it. Like the trades you've gotten, turns out you got a lot back. You've gotten some promising prospects. You got picks. You got guys already contribute, player already contributing in Fraser Minton, who like that trade would almost be, arguably be a win alone if all you got was Fraser Minton. And then you had the picks on top of it. And it's like, yeah, that's going to go down as like one of, if not the best trades that he makes. And then the free agent signings, like, I don't think any of us were huge fans of the offseason. You kind of looked at it and you were like, all right, I get that, the big fish wasn't really out there, or, all those guys re-signed. The ones who did make it to free agency, like Nick Ehlers, didn't want to come to Boston anyways. So it was like, okay, but did you really need to load up on depth like this? Like, why not just leave some roster spots open for the kids? Like all that whole conversation. And it's like, well, everyone they've brought in has kind of contributed and been part of a team that's in a playoff spot now, right? Like we'll see what Tanner Jeannot looks like in years 3, 4, 5 of that contract. But right now he's been in a key piece of your team. Victor Arvidsson, that was a trade. Like that's worked out. He's, whether you keep him or still end up flipping him, like he has brought value. Like just up and down. Sean Corrali's been a steady presence and a veteran leader. Like, yeah, a lot of things have worked out. Now, the reason I say I want to not go too far is like, let's see how this all still pans out longer term, right? Last year at this time, everyone was celebrating the Washington Capitals for mastering the retool on the fly, right? Like,
including you.
What was that?
Including you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what it looked like, right? That was the model of like how to do it. That was a team that picked one trade deadline to have a big sell-off, and within 2 years was the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Well, now the Capitals are in danger of missing the playoffs the year after. And it's like, okay, well, did they really build something sustainable, or did they just kind of capture lightning in a bottle for a year? And like, that's still playing out there. So I would just caution against like something similar could happen here where like it looks like they're on the upward trajectory now, and you're like, wow, they might have pulled this retool off faster than any of us anticipated. Sometimes that's not always linear. So, like, I don't think anyone should be taking any victory laps yet, but it's looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, and on top of just like the trade deadline moves, which we talked about a little bit off the top, I just thinking back to the main points of criticism over the past few years of moves and contracts that were some fans didn't like. Swayman bounced back, right? Last year, that contract wasn't looking like a great idea, though I do think all three of us thought that that was going to be an anomaly year for Swayman and that he was capable of more, and obviously did come out of it and is having a good season. And we'll see what he does in the Olympics if he gets time. So, see how he compares on a team, against some of the better talent in the world, I guess you could say. But he turns out to be, gets things on track. So that criticism you don't hear as much anymore, right? I can't remember the last time I heard, oh, why did he sign Swayman? Like, maybe it's a few outlier fans here or there, but it's not.
Well, I was going to say that there's maybe certain radio shows.
Yeah, like it's outliers though. Like
two I could think of.
Yeah, well, whatever. Like those people don't have an opinion
Hell,
that I care about. But
even the geeky contract, Bridget.
yeah, the geeky, I think that has been awesome. Give them credit for that. I think the getting Corpusalo in that trade for Olmark was also something that was questioned for, how much cap space he took up. Was he going to be able to help? Could you have just gone to Bussy or DiPietro?
I mean, I think that's still fair. Like,
I still think that Corpusalo hasn't been as bad like recently as what people.
Well, Kaslik was the other part of that trade too that I like.
Yeah,
he's been good.
So there are exactly. The trade doesn't end up being too bad, and I'm sure like Olmark's still a good goalie, but has had his struggles this season for multiple reasons, including personal stuff that he's going through. What was the other one I was going to say? The contracts to Zadorov and Elias Lindholm, not this offseason, but the previous one. I think Zadorov is probably not, that contract probably not questioned as much anymore. I think Elias Lindholm, maybe that one still is, because he hasn't, like, this season wasn't like a step forward from last year. It's not like the criticisms that happened last year have been really smoothed over, in that his production still,
production wise, it's definitely been a step forward. Like he's scoring a lot more than he was last year.
But I'm saying, like,
a lot of it's been in the power play.
Yeah, and 5-on-5, it has been more of an issue, and he's your number one center, so the bar is always going to be higher for that person on your team, especially when Patrice Bergeron was the number one center for a long time before that. So, the bar is where it is. It's high.
So should Bruins fans be as fearful as maybe they once were that Sweeney's going to go out and give up too much for somebody like a Vinny Trocheck, or should they have more faith in him this time around based on maybe some trust he's maybe gained back in the last, like I said, let's call it calendar year?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because I guess it comes down to, like, what do you think the Bruins should be doing? Like, if you like this team and are kind of starting to believe and feel like, hey, they've earned, Sweeney adding, then you're probably not as fearful of that. But I do think there's a large portion of the fan base that, in my mind, understandably, would worry about, like, turning right around a year later and giving up some of those assets for someone who's not a part of the longer term future. And, like, you brought up Vinny Trocheck. I gotta say, I don't know that I entirely understand why some people have started linking the Bruins to him. Like, I saw, like, The Athletic did, like, 10 potential trade destinations, because it does seem like he's probably the next Ranger to get moved, a team that's already started selling. But I'm like, like, Trocheck's a good number 2 center, and I'm like, the Bruins already have 2, maybe 3 of those. Like Pavel Zacha and Elias Lindholm are good number 2 centers. Fraser Minton might be turning into a number 2 center right in front of our eyes. And I'm like, I mean, no, like if the Bruins are going to get a center, they need like a number 1, and Trocheck's not that. So he's 32. He is signed for, I think, 3 more years after this. But I'm like, to me, that's not the kind of player that I would be. And his contract's reasonable. I think it's a little under $6 million. It's not like it's like a bad contract or anything, but I'm just like, I don't know why that would be the kind of player the Bruins would be targeting right now. Like you don't
Should be right shot D, right? Like to me, that's
well,
those are the trade rumors I'm interested in hearing more about.
Okay. Well, let's we'll wait and see. But I think Don may he definitely has reason to feel better about himself right now over in while he's probably having some good pasta. Although I will say I don't
enjoying the wine.
Have you guys been watching I mean the skiing and whatnot has been on the northern Italy and like Swiss border. So the scenery is breathtaking. I don't know if exactly where they are is traditional, like Italy, like you think of the good weather and the Italian food. It's more like rural mountains, but I'm sure that they still have good pasta on the borders, regardless, for Don to be eating. But speaking of the Olympics, Bridget mentioned earlier.
I don't know. Last I checked, he wasn't skiing though. I think.
Well, no. I should say, but the Olympic Village where they're playing is like 2 hours, like maybe a little bit southwest of the skiing. So it's still northern Italy. It's not like not in Venice or anything
Milan,
like that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you can get great food in Milan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've been to Milan once. Yeah, you can get pretty good food anywhere. And also it's kind of near Como, which like the Lakes region has a lot of good wine. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I was there. That's all I'll say. I wish I was enjoying it myself.
let's empty our piggy banks and pool some money with the pod can go.
Let's go. There's still time. The men start tomorrow. The US women already have won their first 3 games. So
and they have a big game Tuesday afternoon, Canada.
Yep, that's the big one. And Poulin got hurt last game, but I think she came back for Canada. So
I think she came back for a shift and then left again. So
yeah,
I don't know if there's been any updates.
She's Canada's captain, and she's historically been an extremely clutch player for them. So that would be a huge loss. Hillary Knight has scored.
BU legend Marie-Philippe Poulin.
Yes, of course. I see her portrait every time I go to the rink because it's painted on the wall. But yeah, so she'd be a big loss. And
Canadian. Go ahead, Bridget.
I was just gonna say that the local ties to the women's side, there's so many. Both of Northeastern's past 2 goalies are on USA, and both of them have played and won. So Gwen Phillips won the most recent game. Aaron Frankel won the first 2 games. So, I mean, and that's not it. Like the Swiss team has a bunch of Northeastern people. Like there's a bunch of players all around women.
Well, and Aaron Frankel,
a lot of people from Hockey East right now. Like we're missing players in college right now because they're over there for the women. There's not as many from the men that are going, but a lot of women from college hockey are there.
Well, and Aaron Frankel plays for the Boston Fleet now.
Yes.
So the Canadian women's team, I want to say, are now like 39-3 or something like that in international play at the Olympics. U.S. women's, obviously 2-time gold medalists, I think in 98 and 18.
Yeah.
So those 2 teams seem to be on a collision course. I guess we'll see how the bracket shakes out. If it'll be in the semifinals or the gold medal if both teams get there. As far as
it'll be the gold medal game. Neither one of those teams is losing before then.
Well, that's why I'm saying though the bracket may. What will the quarterfinal bracket? Well, it might be. You know what? There's less teams for women.
Yeah, they're going to be the 1-2, so they won't. They won't be able to play until the gold medal game again.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that in terms of the men's, and this could be a good segue. So, for those who may not know, there are 3 groups for the men's games, and we have Group A, which is Canada, Switzerland, Czechia, and France. Group B is Finland, Sweden, Slovakia, and Italy. And Group C is the US, Germany, Latvia, and Denmark. So you get 12 teams. And each group plays within each other, and you have 4 teams get automatic buys to the quarterfinal round. So you have the 3 group winners, and then 1 team that doesn't win their group will also get a bye to the quarterfinals. So then you have 5 through 12 play each other in qualification games to have the right to meet those teams that had a bye in the quarters. And then from there, you have the semis, of course. The winners of that play in the gold medal game, and the losers of the semi play in the bronze medal game. So, Bridget and Scott, what I don't know, and I've gone back on Wikipedia to look at past Olympic brackets for the men's dating back to like 2002. And it hasn't seemed like there's been a rhyme or reason necessarily as to how the quarterfinal bracket is situated in terms of the teams have a bye. Like there was 1 year where you had the 1 seed and the 4 seed in the same bracket, and then a 2 and a 3 seed in the other bracket. So, and then there was another year where I think that the 1 and 3 seed were in the same bracket, or the one like. So it's I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason as to how the bracket gets organized when they go to the quarterfinal buys. So like what I was saying was, depending on where the US and Canada finish, I expect them to both win their groups, obviously. Like, would the tournament somehow have them on the same side of the bracket or the opposite side? It depends on seeding. I just don't know. So that's why when we talk about Canada US this year, if they get far enough, it could be in the semis, it could be in the gold medal. I just don't know. The women's tournament, there's less teams. It might be more of a sure thing, how that bracket situates. But anyway, I can't wait for these games to get going.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I guess I haven't looked into it. I would have assumed was like total points earned in group stage, and then like you'd have your tiebreakers of goal differential, goals scored, or whatever. But maybe there is something more complicated to it. But yeah, either way, like US should cruise through their group. It is the easiest group because it would have been the group where Russia was. US and Russia would have been in the same group. When Russia got banned, they didn't like reseed everyone and redo the groups. They just like added a team into the US's group. So you replaced Russia with, I don't know, whatever team came, Denmark or whoever like came in because of it. So yeah, like US should go 3-0 in the group stage, be one of the top seeds going into quarterfinals. Canada has a little tougher challenge. Their first game is against Czechia. That's like that's a great first game right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I obviously the Zacha injury hurts Czechia, and I might have had them as like a sleeper medal candidate, and maybe they still are. But now it kind of feels like maybe they're more in like the 4-5 range, right? Like Sweden had some injuries coming in, but that's still a pretty loaded team. And then probably like Czechia and Finland are kind of right along the same level.
I think the Finns are a little bit better than. I think they're deeper than the Czechs right now. I
think that's fair.
I have the Czechs as the 5th best roster on paper, even with the Zacha injury. I probably have them as like maybe the 5 seed playing probably Italy or France in the. They should be in the quarterfinals against 2. I don't know, but.
Yeah, I did want to say, I just was checking Twitter quickly. Helene is ruled out for the US game with injury within the last half hour. She got ruled out, so she's not playing against the US tonight. And then as for like the Canadian lines, I'm sorry, but like I'm very afraid of these lines as somebody who will be rooting for Team USA. The lines for practice have been insane. They've had a few different combinations, but correct me if I'm wrong. This is the most recent one. Top line of Celebrini, McDavid, and Wilson. What a crazy line that is. What an absolutely insane line. To have McDavid and Tom Wilson on the same line.
Create time and space. Create time and space for him.
It's like so different as well, and like I don't know, that blew my mind. This line, and I love it though. Like for them, like as a hockey fan, I love it. This is just a line I never thought I would see. And then second line, Marchand, McKinnon, Suzuki. third line center is Sidney Crosby. Like what?
Not bad.
Stone, Crosby, Marner, and then Hagel, Horvat, Reinhart, with the extra forwards being Jarvis and Bennett. Just crazy to see, and this is why I like international hockey and any competition where you get to kind of throw different players in a blender, and like now we get to see this person over here with this other person that they never get to play with, and it's just fun. But it's not going to be fun for the U.S. to play this team. This is an insane lineup. Yeah. And then your top D pair for Canada is Taze Makar. Pretty damn good D pair there. And then Morrissey, Parego, Harley Doughty, extra 2 is Theodore and Sanheim. It's just
I mean the US's advantage should be defense and goaltending. Like that's where they, the US has the best D-core in the tournament. Like that they had a good D-core last year. Those guys are back, and then you're also now adding McAvoy, who was not there for the gold medal game last year, and Quinn Hughes, who obviously missed the whole tournament. Yeah. And the US in practice early on has had those two together, McAvoy with Quinn Hughes, and then Jacob Slavin, Brock Faber, which was a pairing at Four Nations, and then Zach Werenski with either Noah Hannafin or Jake Sanderson, who I guess I think it should be Sanderson should be getting regular shifts. I really like Jake Sanderson. But yeah, I mean, I guess worth like quickly US lines. Again, some similarities to Four Nations where Eichel is centering the Tkachuk brothers. Austin Matthews with Jake Gensel and Matt Boldy. Then third line of Kyle Connor, Dylan Larkin, and Tage Thompson. And then
not bad.
Jack Hughes down on the fourth line with Brock Nelson and JT Miller, and then Vinny Trocheck and Clayton Keller as extra forwards. So, Canada went more with the spread out the talent approach, whereas I think this US lineup looks more of like a kind of a true 1 through 4 type of lineup. So
yeah,
I think things are going to change. Obviously, it's going to be moving around, but it is always interesting to see kind of where teams start.
One other key injury, in addition to Zacha being out for the Czechs, Barkov's out for the Finns, which sucks. And then in terms of Russia, it is unfortunate in terms of competition because on paper, especially their forward group, I think their forward group, you could argue, would be second best in the tournament, maybe third right behind the U.S. I think Russia's defense would be a little bit further down the line, but just quickly on the U.S. and Canada, I think that the best way to sum it up for me is Canada has the 3 best players in the entire tournament. I think that their forward group is undisputedly the best in the tournament. I agree with Scott that the U.S.'s goaltending and defense is the best in the tournament. So I think the U.S. has the most well-rounded team. And if it was a 7-game series against Canada, I think I'd put more stock in the U.S.'s defense and goaltending. But in a 1-game situation, it doesn't really matter as much. So I guess we'll just get to picks right now. Like, what are your picks? What's going to win out here? I think it would be irresponsible of us to not crown Team Canada rightfully as the gold medal favorites heading into this tournament. I know, gold was won by the Finns in the last Olympics, but it wasn't best on best. It was won by, Olympic athletes of Russia, whatever before that. But when it comes to best on best, Canada deserves the respect of being the gold medal favorites. Do you think they will win the tournament?
Unfortunately, yes, I do. Look, it's gonna be close, and like, would I be surprised if the U.S. wins? Absolutely not. I think they're right there, but yeah, if I'm picking now, I would say Canada beats the U.S. in a great gold medal game. But yeah, I think that offensive firepower, that star power, eventually wins out, just like it did in Four Nations. But I absolutely give the U.S. a chance, and more than a puncher's chance. Like they are right there. Like it would not be surprising at all. They have a very real chance of winning gold, but having to pick right now, I would go Canada.
They
Bridget?
split. They split at Four Nations. Technically, I know Canada won the championship game, but they
With no
split.
with no McAvoy and Hughes, and
Yeah.
Canada did get Makar for that gold medal game. But again, you add Celebrini. They didn't have Celebrini. But the U.S. adds Tage Thompson, who's a good player. We talked about Caulfield and Roberts not being there, but Thompson's a great addition. It's right there. Bridget, what's your gut telling you? What's your heart telling you, Bridget?
You know how much I love picks. You know it.
I do.
I love
do.
making predictions. I love making picks.
Yes, you do.
I'm not gonna make a pick.
Oh my
Come on, you
goodness.
have to. Bridget, we're not locking. We're not locking off until you make a pick.
Can't make me.
Well,
all right. You know what?
We'll make this a 7-hour recording if we have to. You got to make
Scott,
a pick.
I got an idea. Bridget, you do not have to vote. You're within your right. No problem. But the thumbnail for this episode will be Bridget predicts France to win gold medal. So you either get to give us your real answer or that's going to be the thumbnail.
Well, I mean, I'll agree with you, Brian, and Scott, I know you agree too. Canada is the favorite, but I cannot bring myself to say they're going to win. I just can't. As somebody who is very invested in watching the U.S. and rooting for them,
then
it's going to be really hard for me to pick. I don't know. It could end the same way that 2010 ended, which was overtime and Crosby wins it, or it could end the same way that Four Nations did, which is overtime.
All right, Bridget picks France.
All right, France it is. France it is. So I will go.
Come on, give me
I will go.
But speaking of Latvia, I saw their lines: Danslav Schmelis and Kasper Dagovans on the line. I mean, my God.
Well, yeah.
Afraid.
They're medal favorites for sure, but I don't know about the gold. Yeah, Scott, I like what you said earlier. Like if the Czechs had Zacha, I think that they would absolutely be in the conversation to try and medal, like maybe like a bronze or something, maybe. I'm not sleeping on the Finns, even though they have no Barkov, and I'm not sleeping on the Swedes. But I do think, again, depends how the bracket shakes out. But if it is US and Canada in the finals, then you know what? I'm gonna pick the US, and I will be happily wrong if they lose. I also will just say, the Finns or the Swedes are capable of, I think, any given Sunday upsetting anybody. So I'm gonna say US, and hopefully I'm right. Bridget, we'll see how France does. And Scott, Canada winning is certainly, I would say, expected, but we will see. All right. Games start Wednesday, tomorrow. So enjoy that. And we'll be back here again. Please send your mailbag questions to skatepod@weei.com. You can tweet at Scott, Bridget, or myself on Twitter. You can leave comments here on YouTube. Yeah, I think that's probably all the mediums for it. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you on Thursday. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.